Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the House of Swing, Jazz and Lincoln Center, here in the heart of Columbus Circle, here in New York City. Blessing the band stage for the entire week here at Dizzy's, here at Jazz and Lincoln Center, is pianist, composer, and band leader, Renee Rosnes. Now, as you might know, Renee has been a stalwart in the jazz scene for well over 30 years, backing the likes of the great J.J. Johnson, Bobby Hutchinson, John Faddis, Joe Henderson, Wayne Shorter, and the great Ron Carter. Now, she's performing music from her current record, Kinds of Love, which is on Smoke Sessions Records. And as you might know, she hails from North Vancouver, British Columbia. Now, she first started off studying classical music, but was really hit by the music bug when she was in high school. Tonight here on the Pace Report, you're going to see her perform music with her group, featuring the great Steve Wilson, Peter Washington, and Carl Allen. I had a chance to sit down and break bread with her to talk about and reflect her time growing up in Canada and how she was exposed to the music, as well as we sit down and we reflect on some of the greats who she's backed over the years, as well as she talks about her role as a band leader. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of Miss Renee Rosnes performing live with her group here at Dizzy's, here at Heart of Swing at Jazz and Lincoln Center, here on the Pace Report, here in New York City. I'm so honored to just be sitting down with you. I have followed you for so very long, you and your husband. And tonight you have Steve playing with you, and you guys go back to OTB, right?
That's right.
Tell me about the first time you met Steve.
Oh my gosh, probably it was a rehearsal in Brooklyn for OTB, also known as Out of the Blue. We're talking late 80s. We go back a ways.
Right. So, this album is very interesting because you have a myriad of musicians that you've admired and have played with over the years. Tell my viewers who's on this new record.
We have Christian McBride on the bass, Carl Allen on drums, who's with us at Dizzy's this week, and Chris Potter, saxophones, flute, several instruments, and a beautiful percussionist from Brazil named Rogério Bocato, who of course lives in the city, lives here, but I became familiar with Rogério through Jimmy Green, whose group I play in sometimes, and that's where I met Rogério and played with him and just fell in love with his playing.
I set the piece up. I was telling my viewers that people who have followed you have played from the 80s up until currently. You have played with some very important stalwarts of Black American music, and cutting your teeth as a young lion in the 80s. Tell me some of the important things that you learned as a young lion, but also that what you're applying today as a band leader, as a leader.
Great question. First of all, I never thought of myself as a young lion or any kind of lion. I came from Canada, and I came in late '85. And my intention was really just to stay in New York for a year and return to Canada. I was here on a grant from the Canadian Arts Council. And then when I got here and started to immerse myself in the scene and the music, and so much great music going on, of course, all my heroes still around. Go to hear Tommy Flanagan, Hank Jones. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Bradley's, that great club that hosted so many wonderful musicians, and there was just so much great music to hear. And so when I first started to work with OTB, and then shortly thereafter with saxophonist Joe Henderson, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was on the scene here in New York and then beginning to work with some of the greatest musicians. And of course, then there were all my peers, people like Benny Green and Mulville Miller, James Williams, so many great pianists and horn players that I hooked up with at the time to make music with. And it was just a wonderful time of growth and experience, and I knew pretty shortly thereafter that I wouldn't be leaving here anytime soon. And of course, here I am some 35 years plus later. But I don't think I answered your question very well.
No, that's part of that's part of the whole nurturing of becoming a musician. You have to soak up everything, but you also, the practical is basically on the band stage.
Definitely. Some of the leaders, you mentioned some of the people I played with, James Moody, Joe Henderson, Bobby Hutchinson, J.J. Johnson, Wayne Shorter. Every single one of those masters was such a lesson for me. Every night playing with them, just listening to and feeling how they dealt with the music and with the band. And I could say, if I had one real generalization, it was that each of those musicians had a faith and a trust in the musicians that they chose to play with. And so there wasn't a lot of verbal direction. It was through the music, through the horn, through the vibraphone, through the saxophone, through, whatever it was. Even Ron Carter, certainly now as well, whom I've been playing with in his Foresight quartet. I don't know whether that some of it came from from them learning from musicians such as Miles Davis, who also, I don't believe, spoke a lot in terms of, you know, verbally directing his band. It comes through the music. You have to keep your ears open and really pay attention to what's going on and focusing in on what people need, what people want in their bands. And of course, as a rhythm section player, that changes from group to group. It changes from leader to leader. It's really about just understanding, trying to have an understanding of what it is, what kind of sound they're looking for, what kind of dynamics, what kind of overall or arc of each piece that you play, and just falling in, supporting, and trying to hear how can I make this particular piece sound as good as possible, and what does each individual musician in the band need from me in order to make their job easier or make the music sound the best it can sound.
we have comfort food, where you just, my comfort saxophonists are Charles Lloyd and Joe Henderson.
Sure.
And Wayne Shorter. And I have to ask you, because Wayne's music is so it's very, very different. I know for you, being a young person, playing the music and playing under him, were there any adjustments that you had to incorporate backing him up and playing his music?
I mean, I think of the entire experience as consistent adjustments. I mean, from night to night, things could be vastly different. I mean, a good example would be that when I worked with him, I had the beautiful opportunity to play one of his compositions, Gianna, spelled Diana but pronounced Gianna, for Flora and Iarto's daughter. He wrote, it's on the Native Dancer album, and we played that duet every night. And I remember when we rehearsed it, one of the first times I was playing with him, and I was really intent on checking out, where the dynamics were, where he was feeling the time and where he would move it ahead or fall back. And then I got a really great lesson the first time we performed it, because it was nothing like what we rehearsed. And the lights went off. I just thought, oh, of course. He's gonna phrase it differently every night. It's not necessarily like a vocalist who has a certain way of singing a song and they phrase it that way every time. He was just so full of freedom, and it was so liberating. And that was a great lesson for a young musician, because I realized, of course, we're living in the moment. He's gonna play in the moment. He's a different person every day. We feel differently when we go on stage, depending on what's happened during the day. And so just allowing that freedom and allowing whatever freedom he was feeling to affect me, and to just go along with it and live in the moment. And that's something I've definitely taken with me throughout my career, just playing with everybody, and including my own band. I feel that it's really important to allow the musicians to be themselves, and to have that trust and faith in what it is that they do and what they can bring to the music. And when you allow that kind of freedom, you bring out the best in the players that you work with.
You have an affinity for the saxophonist. I was with Linda Moody last night, and John Faddis.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, John played. He played for the Jazz Vespers, Dorthon Kirk, over in Jersey last night. Wow.
Yeah. Moody was such a joy. What a joy. What a joyful person. Just an amazing player. All that beautiful vocabulary that he had. I remember playing with him at the Iridium Club some years ago, and he had just had a stent put in, or more than one. And it was his first gig after the operation. It was some weeks later. But we started playing, I think it was Invitation, the song Invitation, first set, first song. And he must have played, 30 choruses, and all of them were different. And he was just so ready to play and say, I'm back, here I am, And all of us in the band were just looking at each other. Adam Nussbaum on drums and Todd Coleman on bass, and we were thrilled to be playing with him again. And just his beautiful spirit, and he was playing so much stuff, and we were just smiling at each other like, wow, Moody's back. Here he is.
He's back. He's back. The Golden Triangle, composition on your current album. Max Gordon bought what is now the Village Vanguard. That was the name of the club. Why did you decide the name? Was it in honor of him or was it in honor of your hero, Chick Corea?
Well, I think there's a little bit of both in that piece. Very great that you could pick all that up. Yeah, it was, titling songs, titling compositions is always interesting. It's sometimes it really is kind of obvious what subject matter it's going to be, and sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. But I just kind of felt like that suited that particular composition, and it was named for the Vanguard more so than Chick, even though the song does have.
I heard a lot of Chick.
Yeah,
I heard a lot of Chick.
There is. Yeah.
You know, Chick left us last year during this crazy pandemic. He was ill. He meant a lot to a lot of people, including yourself. Tell me the first Chick Corea record that you heard or that you bought, and tell me the first time you saw Chick Corea perform.
Well, the first recording I bought of his was The Leprechaun.
Ooh.
And I was in high school. I think my band teacher probably turned me on to it. And it had so many interesting compositions, and of course, you know, the synth playing, and it was fascinating to me. And then I started delving into the other recordings. Probably the second one that I delved into was Now He Sings, Now He Sobs, with Miroslav and Roy Haynes. And that's probably remains one of my favorite Chick recordings. You know, he was so fully formed right at the beginning. He had his sound and his own vocabulary, and you could hear some of his influences, but I mean, it was so definitively him. And once you got to know his playing, you could pick it out anywhere. You could hear 2 bars, 1 bar. That's Chick Corea. That's his touch, you know, that's his harmonic concept.
He wrote a lot of music.
He certainly did.
For different ensembles throughout his...
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, you know, what inspired him to inspire a lot of musicians like this?
He just had a restless musical mind, you know. He could do it all. He could hear everything, and he loved all kinds of music. And so I think it was just his playground, you know. He just felt like, you know, I can do that. I'd like to take that, you know, whether it was flamenco music, for instance, you know, well, I could do that, you know. I'll just write some music that incorporates, you know, those sounds. Classical music, you know. I think really he was so immensely talented. He was such a genius. He could really just take anything that appealed to him, and incorporate that into his own music, you know. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. All the albums he made, all the recordings, it's vastly different from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I'm sure there was even more from where that came from. You know, had he been around even longer, he would have just kept reading. He was so profound, you know. He was able to work so consistently and so for so many years. He just kept on. Chick Corea was so profound, but he was also very prolific. You know, he just had a never-ending sense of I mean, he was kind of like a child. Like, you know, he wrote The Eternal Child, but that's really who he was. You know, he just kept experimenting and kept playing with all sorts of different musical ideas, and you know, it was his toy. He could just keep on going, you know, any direction he wanted. He had it there. It was within him and within his limitless imagination.
Paint a picture of the very first time you stepped into the recording studio to record your very first project.
Well, the first time I was in the studio to record was actually with Gary Thomas on his album Seventh Quadrant. So that was an experience in and of itself. But the first time I recorded my own recording was for Blue Note, and it was at Rudy Van Gelder's studio. And it was, we had more than one session, but I remember being there with the great Ron Carter and Louis Nash, who was already a friend at the time. We'd been playing together on the scene here in New York. Specifically, we met through the wonderful vocalist Vanessa Rubin. But I'm going to digress there, so I'll stay on this track. Yeah, so, and then Brandon Marsalis rounded out the quartet, as well as Ralph Bowen, Canadian saxophonist that I met when I was in my teens. And it was thrilling. It was thrilling to be in that studio and to be, you know, with Rudy Van Gelder. Of course, you know all the amazing history there.
Were you scared?
I don't know that I was as much scared as I was enthusiastic and nervous, perhaps. I don't know if I could say actually scared. I don't think I would have been able to play if I was really scared. I was excited. I was excited, and I was feeling challenged, and of course I wanted to do a great job, but I also knew that I'd had a lot of experience performing already at that time, so I knew that I was just excited to hear these musicians play the music I'd prepared to record, and just to, as I learned from Wayne already by that time, just live in the moment and let it go, you know.
How has it changed now, you know, 2022? How has it changed for you recording and writing for
I think I still feel some of those same feelings every time I go into the studio, certainly to record my own projects. I have a faith and a trust in the musicians that I've hired, and I'm excited to hear what they're going to bring to the music, you know, and I'm never let down. And I also know from experience that whatever music I'm writing, I mean, for instance, my last recording, was all the music was original, and it was all composed during the pandemic. So there was really nobody to play with at that time, and so it was more exciting than ever, and such a great feeling to just be with my friends again, even though we were all in masks, and you know, there were other concerns to do with all of that. On top of the recording, it's interesting not being able to see people's faces when you play. You don't realize, at least I didn't realize, how much of that communication and emotional connection you get from here down. You still see people's eyes, but just very subtle details in, you know, cueing somebody to do something, or you don't feel the full, I don't know what the word is, but the full essence of what it is that you're feeling when you play with somebody if you can't see their face all the way. But anyway, we just all had a wonderful time in it. I think there was an extra spark of you know, love and respect and happiness at being able to play together again, and I think you can hear it in the music. At least I felt that in the music. I was just very, very happy and pleased, and there was just a nice camaraderie, and all of us were happy to just be hanging out with each other again too. So it was a bit of a different experience because of the pandemic, to be back with people and recording and playing together again.
You know, I have to ask you this. What is it like living with another accomplished piano player? I know that. Do you guys share the same piano? Or do you have two pianos?
We have two pianos, two Steinways, but they're in the same room. They're in our living room, and they're nested.
So how does it work? Because I know there's two different types of music styles and so much history in one room. How does it work out?
You know, we don't really talk about it, believe it or not. I mean, we respect one another a tremendous amount, so if somebody has something coming up that they really need to spend time working on, more so than the other, we kind of just let that person have the room, so to speak. But then both of us are so busy. We're on the road. You know, he's out of town right now. You know, he's gone. I'm gone. So we find time to work together. To work alone without the other person at home. You know, and Bill is teaching right now too. So there's a couple of days more than that per week where I know like he's gone, he's busy. So I can take advantage of that time of being alone to be able to work. But it's a give and take situation. And we also have an electric piano, so if one person needs to do something while the other one's working, we can do that as well.
That's good. I mean, because every time I see you guys are so happy. It's like it's amazing how you guys are in the same craft, and it's like, do you guys bump heads? But it seems like because of, like you said, the scheduling, it kind of works itself out.
It does. And like I say, we deeply respect what the other person does. So if I know that he needs time to work on something, you know, I can just make myself scarce or just get into doing something else. It's not like when one of us is playing, I mean, we're not hovering over the other, you know, worrying about, you know, oh, what's he doing now? You know, it's like right. I'll be cooking or busy doing other things, and it's a give and take situation both ways.
Ron Carter is getting his roses. The documentary, the quartet you've been playing with for 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
This man has done so much in jazz, and he's so loved and revered by everybody. What is it like working with him on the band stage, and what are some of the most important things you've learned from Mr. Carter?
Oh, well, first let me say what an honor it is to play music with him. I mean, he was on my first recording, and we had played together intermittently with other projects throughout the years, but for him to invite me to become a part of his quartet meant so much to me. And every time I play with him, I learn something, and it's a variety of things. And some of the things I learn you can't really verbalize, but he has taught me so much about just playing within a group and the roles the different instruments have, and how to support, how to think as a team player, and how to be flexible and ready to move at a moment's notice, which is, his beautiful bass lines, and how he directs the band from the bass, and just the way that the music develops, and how much that comes from the bass and from his choices, and how his choices affect the rest of the band. So it's just it's been a fantastic, and is a fantastic experience to play with him, and I just look forward to every time I get to do it.
Every week I shot some footage of the residency at Birdland.
Okay, right.
And I just saw how happy, you guys were playing with him. He seems like in a very different space. He's very, very comfortable with you guys. That had 11 years. That's a long time. You guys have had a great run with that.
Very much so. And in particular, this past summer, we were 3.5 weeks on the road, playing all over Europe. And when you have those kinds of experiences with any band, really, when you're able to play together night after night after night after night, the music develops in very interesting ways, and it's a blessing, like when you can do that and when that happens, because it's just, you're a family on and off the bandstand, and that friendship and camaraderie contributes to the music as well, and it just makes it deeper.
Renee Rosnes, what does jazz music mean to you?
Jazz, for me, it feels like it's the experience of having freedom. I cherish all the musicians that I have been able to make music with in my lifetime. And I feel that it's a gift. Every single person, whatever experiences they've gone through in their lives, it comes through the horn, it comes through the music, and you feel like you're having a private conversation with somebody, and it just enriches your soul. And I think that when all of us play together, whatever band it is, we're bringing our collective experience and our humanity. We're sharing that with each other, and then sharing that with the audience. And I think it's a very special music because it runs the gamut of emotion. The emotional palette is huge, which it is in every music. But I think especially because this music is really in the moment, it's spontaneous. And when we create together from night to night, and it's different every night, that's a very, very special thing. And it's like a piece of artwork that's being created every single night. And even if we're playing the same tune, but it's going to change from night to night. And so the experience and the emotional experience of that particular piece is going to change from night to night, and that's a very special thing. It's like each piece of music is a one of a kind piece of art.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at Dizzy's, here at Jazz and Lincoln Center, here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the talented Renee Rosnes for her time. Make sure you support her current CD, Kinds of Love, which is now available on CD Baby, Amazon.com, and Google Play. Also, I'd like to personally thank the staff and management here at Dizzy's, as well as Jazz at Lincoln Center, for their warm hospitality. As always, people, I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo, and leave comments. Also, people, follow me on social media by way of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.